Hello Whovians and welcome to Whopinions. So if you didn't know, this is my first proper video on the channel and I'm going to try to release a few more of them over the next few months, ranking, rating, reviewing all things Doctor Who. I'm so grateful for anyone who's watching this and any support you can keep giving me by watching, liking, sharing, commenting on my videos. And hey, if you're feeling really generous, why not subscribe? I'd really appreciate it. I'd owe you one. That'd be great. But anyway, so I spent quite a while thinking about what I wanted to do for a first video. And eventually I settled on a topic that is kind of in the spirit of beginnings. So I'm going to spend a little while talking about the man himself, the returning hero, Russel T Davies. This is my interpretation of how Doctor Who achieved the greatest ever television comeback. Doctor Who is the longest running sci-fi show in history, and let's face it, it's almost certainly the best as well. But that's a topic for another video. The show began in November 1963 and ran for an impressive 26 consecutive series before being axed by the BBC in 1989. This was down to a number of different factors, both internal and external to the show, and is a long and complex event that again warrants its own dedicated video. So I don't want to spend too long talking about how the original show ended, but it's an important piece of context when talking about how the modern show began. It's important to note that Doctor Who's original cancellation wasn't a simple "you're fired" moment, rather the 27th series just never materialised. And the programme entered what has been dubbed by fans as the wilderness years, and was known to the rest of the world as the 1990s. During this time, however, Doctor Who certainly wasn't dead. It was merely absent from the public eye, and so without a regular fix of doctoriness from the BBC, many fans took it upon themselves to produce their own Doctor Who content, which sparked a period of unparalleled fan fiction output, both in quantity and quality. From the New Adventures books, to the Big Finish audio dramas, to the continuous outputs of Doctor Who magazine, to the 1999 comic relief special, The Curses of Fatal Death. Wow! Everyone in the community began to get involved and start producing dedicated and often groundbreaking works. All this led to the Doctor Who community becoming abundantly expressive and creative, harbouring and nurturing some of recent media's most influential talents. However, this would all appear to have been in vain after a Doctor Who TV movie was produced in 1996 starring Paul McGann as the Doctor. The movie failed to gain a substantial audience in America and was criticised in the UK for being too detached from the original series, leading to the proposed follow-up series being scratched before it even got started. Doctor Who had made one last attempt at redemption and it had failed. And to all the world, it seemed that that was the end of the story. How wrong they were. Stephen Russel Davies, better known as Russel T Davies, was born on the 27th of April 1963. As a child, Doctor Who was a big part of his life, and he became an earnest fan from a young age. In fact, in 1968, Russell even won a Blue Peter competition to design a monster for the show, a pleasure he made sure to provide a whole new generation, with nearly 40 years later with the creation of the Absorbaloff through the children's TV show. Growing up, however, he began to notice that he was different. And it's not because he was incredibly talented and amazing writer, which of course he was, but because he was homosexual. Accepting yourself as gay must be incredibly challenging and life-changing at any time. But in the early 80s, in the middle of an AIDS epidemic, the challenges he faced were even more pressing. These difficult and tumultuous years of his early 20s greatly shaped and informed his character and were undoubtedly key to allowing him to develop his perception of the world and his talent for writing. His experience of the period have been vividly recreated in his Channel 4 drama, It's a Sin. But Davies was able to fall back on Doctor Who as a comforter, a constant, a reminder of his childhood, and he remained a loyal fan up until its cancellation. However, despite his love for the show, he has implied that he found it difficult to identify with many of the characters, something he would make sure to correct in his eventual reboot. During the 1990s, Russell entered the screenwriting industry, following a part-time commission with the BBC from 1985 and graduation from Oxford, and became a frequent name in theatre, prose and television with hit dramas like Queer as Folk. He also dipped into the world of Doctor Who fan fiction, which, as I've already said, was flourishing at this time. In 1996, he wrote a book in Virgin's New Adventures range called Damaged Goods, and is known to have developed several ideas he would later fully develop during his time on the show, such as concepts behind episodes like The Long Game. So how did he go from writing Doctor Who as fan fiction to writing Doctor Who as prime-time television? Davies had harboured ambitions to resurrect his favourite show pretty much since its cancellation, but he needed a chance to fulfil them. Fun fact, I'm not talking about 2005. As I mentioned in a short video clip earlier this week, Russel T Davies almost succeeded in making the series all the way back in 1998. He was approached by BBC head of drama series Mal Young, who had recently read a forthcoming Queer as Folk script about a job rewriting and editing scripts for a new programme called Harbour Lights. This was the window he'd been looking for, and when he declined the editing job, Mal asked him what he would be interested in, and Russell proposed bringing back Doctor Who, with which Mal reports being thrilled with. In a recent Doctor Who magazine interview, he declared that it felt like the most exciting thing on earth. Suddenly, it became my obsession. Unfortunately, despite his enthusiasm, and from him and many others of the leading teams at the BBC, the idea fell through due to rights issues. It's not entirely clear where they came from, but it definitely wasn't from the TV movie, and it appears to originate from somewhere inside the BBC. Annoyingly, the definitive source of the problem remains unclear, because almost every department within the company has denied rejecting the proposal. Perhaps everyone just doesn't want to admit it was them. Anyway, the end result was the Doctor Who revival never got through the front door, and Russell would have to wait for another chance. But it was only a matter of time. The next window of opportunity came in late 2003, after Doctor Who's 40th anniversary. The event was massively overlooked by the BBC, and unless you were part of a few remaining fan circles, you wouldn't really have known anything was happening. The only real signifier was a celebrity special of The Weakest Link, featuring a few classic Doctors. And this negligence was met with considerable backlash from fans. This was the evidence Russel T Davies needed to convince the BBC that the show had potential and could win back its audience if done right. So, by the start of 2004, Russell had been appointed executive producer for a Doctor Who reboot, and the project was announced publicly. So maybe it wasn't such a bad birthday after all. Okay, so now I can finally get into the meat of this essay. Because as hard as it was to get the initial green light, it was going to be 10 times harder for Davies to make the show successful. His work had only just begun, really. The thing is, while the show did have potential, it was very well buried. And Russell had to succeed in several crucial areas in order to tap into it. He needed to make the show exciting and compelling. He needed to maintain high production standards. He needed to win back an audience that had slowly fallen into obscurity over the last 16 years. He needed to create new fans within a younger generation who had never seen the show before. He had to find a reasonable explanation for where the hell the Doctor had been since the TV movie. I want you to keep all these things in your mind as I discuss the various aspects of Series 1 and how he used them to secure the show's future. First things first, the writers. If Russel T Davies wanted Doctor Who to be taken seriously by the rest of the world, he would need a team of writers whom he could trust to deliver scripts worthy of the show's heritage. Doctor Who's history is littered with the very best writers of any given time. Douglas Adams, Robert Holmes, and Terence Dicks, just being a few. It was the concepts and characters that kept the show running way back then, even if the effects and the set pieces often left a lot to be desired. This is the first and probably most important asset Series 1 has, because every single writer in the team was not only experienced and talented from a diverse variety of backgrounds, which in turn helped convince the big bosses that the show was in safe hands, but they were all massive fans, which in turn helped convince other fans that the show was in safe hands. See, appealing to everyone at once. Anyway, each and every member of the writing team understood the show, what it represented, what it could do, and how it could work. As a result, all the episodes in this first series felt earnest and heartfelt, treating Doctor Who with a respect and appreciation that it sometimes doesn't receive today. Trivial. Sorry. Obviously, Russell had his own ambitions for the show, but he never let them overtake the core essence of Doctor Who, and he always gave the writers the freedom to write how they wanted. That's not to say, however, that Doctor Who was the same as it had been before in the classic series. To be honest, nothing could be further from the truth. Davies envisioned a bold new direction for the show to take, in which the Time Lords and the Daleks had fought a war over the fate of the universe, which the Doctor had been forced to end the only way he could. This not only explained away where the Doctor had been since 1996, or even 1989 if you're ignoring the movie, but it dictated a darker, more serious undertone to the show, and made the Doctor a grief-stricken survivor instead of a goofy travelling scientist. What's more, he introduced the concept of a series arc, something that had been briefly flirted with in the late 80s but never fully utilised. This made the show feel very modern, drawing off the techniques used by other recent sci-fi like the Star Wars prequels and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy. It also allowed Davies to raise the stakes and keep viewers intrigued and watching the next week all the way until the finale. Next, the cast. Obviously, the writing behind a show can only be as good as its delivery. So let's talk about Chris and Billy, shall we? Both of these castings were inspired choices, each of them perfectly matched to their roles, and despite some scepticism regarding their wildly different backgrounds, the two shared some excellent chemistry. Eccleston had done a lot of serious contemporary dramas, so had the skill set and experience to play a war-ravaged Doctor. This brought in audiences who'd written Doctor Who off as a kids' show. However, he was still flexible and actually ended up being one of the funniest and bounciest Doctors ever. I mean, who else could pull off that banana gag in The Doctor Dances? Anyway, Christopher created a mysterious yet lovable Doctor with more weight on his shoulders and more love for life than any before him. And I mean, he's perfect, isn't he? Eccleston delivers one of the most compelling performances of his entire career as the Doctor. Every second he's on screen is astonishing, and he never misses a beat. It remains a tragedy that he felt the need to distance himself from the show for all of these years. Piper, meanwhile, was young, famous, and popular. This brought in the younger generation, who had grown up without ever seeing the show. What's more, she brought a freshness and independence to the role of the companion, which hadn't been seen before. Rose, while still a novice in the Tardis, quickly proved herself adaptable, intelligent, and quite stubborn when she needed to be. As a result, her performance became the template for the modern Doctor Who companion, and everyone since owes something to her. Hell, the first episode of New Who is named after her. And I guess the first part of the finale too, because she's Bad Wolf. Anyway, the point is, Piper was crucial to making the show successful, and the partnership between Rose and the Ninth Doctor is surely one of the best in Doctor Who history. Of course, this brilliant casting, courtesy of Andy Pryor, who still works on the show today, wasn't just limited to the core cast. Doctor Who has a reputation of attracting great, perfectly fitted actors, and this is where that legacy starts. Simon Callow, who was cast as Charles Dickens for The Unquiet Dead, was a long-established enthusiast for the Victorian novelist. Simon Pegg, or the editor from The Long Game, has proved to be a great steal by the show, and it's a joy to see him having fun opposite the Jaguar-Fest, blissfully unaware of his impending fame. But perhaps the most notable of Series 1's supporting cast is the rogue time agent, temporary companion and future Torchwood operative, Captain Jack Harkness. John Barrowman brought in Jack, a character that felt alien to the universe. He was flamboyant, flirtatious, morally ambiguous, omnisexual, from the far future. Not only did this breathe new life into Doctor Who and inject fun and humour into a very dark tale towards the end of the series, but provided the show with a figure with which the LGBTQ community could identify with, finally allowing Russel T Davies to fix that long-running flaw and achieve one of his greatest ambitions. After returning to the show in the 2020's Series 12, it's clear that Jack is as adored as ever, and for good reason. Now, production. Russel T Davies wanted to use the new technologies of the 21st century to give Doctor Who a new aesthetic. These innovations included CGI, green screen, improved cameras, many of which wouldn't have been within his reach if the 1998 proposal had gone ahead. Everything was really falling into place for RTD, wasn't it? And he used it well. Clever angles and lighting provided scenes from Dalek and the Empty Child with tension they would never normally contain. And as far as CGI goes, well, most of it, even like stuff like the Reapers, it still holds up today. Also, the new show's production team worked in unison to cooperate and coordinate the different elements of design towards one tone. When you think of Naughty's Who, the first thing that comes to mind, surely, maybe except for David Tennant, is that logo. That iconic purple-orange eye framing the show's name is inseparable from Russel T Davies' Doctor Who and represents one part of a network of imaging used to give the show a new, distinctive tone. And just look at the Tardis. In the classic series, the Tardis interior was almost always bright, white and pristine. The control room was large and open, with its only key feature being the small pedestal in the middle. There's nothing wrong with this, and I have a lot of love for the classic TARDIS designs, but it is obviously a spaceship. The 2005 design isn't. The old tattered furniture, the green lighting, the coral-esque design, the tall central column, it all creates a sense that the TARDIS is somewhat alive, as though it is more than your vehicle, it's your guide to the universe, your protector and the Doctor's oldest and most loyal companion. The TARDIS has undergone many redesigns since, but each one owes something to this design. And the old Type 40 has been greatly adapted both physically and emotionally, having even been given its own character over the preceding series. All thanks to a cool set and a bit of mood lighting, eh? This new tone was carried forward into the show's most famous villains, the Daleks. The infamous pepper pots were another crucial area that Russell had to get right, and my goodness he did. I mean, just look at this design. It's beautiful, but it's also terrifying, and has remained so effective and iconic that they have kept using it to this day. The Time War Daleks are near perfect in every sense. Their bronze metallic exterior gives the impression that they are a form of space tank specifically designed for war. They are instantly eye-catching and look impressive and proud, yet also practically indestructible and can easily be used to evoke fear and dread, like in almost every scene from The Parting of Ways. Davies also made sure to eliminate the creature's drawbacks by turning them into strengths. These Daleks made light work of stairs, building on the premise from 1988's Remembrance of the Daleks. Their weapons fired compact energy beams rather than wide-reaching radiation blasts. They could kill just as effectively with their manipulator or plunger arms, as well as replace it with torches or grips. Their middle section could rotate independently to their body. The orbs on their lower half were a hidden self-destruct system. I mean, I could go on. But the Daleks in the RTD era were more than just bad guys. They were the bad guys. The inclusion of the Time War placed them much closer to the Doctor's heart than they had been in the classic series. They had, as far as he was concerned, forced him to commit genocide and wipe out his homeworld and everyone on it. Being confronted with a Dalek inspired rage and anger in the Doctor, but also provided him with someone to blame. Whenever a Dalek is in the room with the Ninth Doctor, everything he hides from Rose and the other people around him is revealed in full horror. Because the Ninth Doctor is one who is on the run from the past, trying to prove to himself that he can be the Doctor again. But as hard as he tries, he can't shake that last bit of evil inside him. Meanwhile, RTD never shied away from exposing the Daleks as the ultimate in racial cleansing. He made sure to always add in a touch of humanity, though. The post-war Daleks are a race on the verge of extinction, trying to desperately stay pure, hateful, unevolved, but as hard as they try, they can't shake that little bit of compassion and humanity left inside them. This parallel allows Davies to use the Daleks as a foil to the Doctor and unearth the darkness behind our Time Lord hero, all in the name, of course, of pushing him towards a kinder, more open path. Obviously, there's more than just the people I've mentioned. There's a massive team of directors and producers and cameramen and God knows how many other people working on this series, and they all pulled together to produce something magical. And I thank every single one of them for what they managed to do with that first series of Doctor Who. Oh, and special mention to Murray Gold for the music, because he's always on fire, and Series 1's no different. he changed Doctor Who music forever, and he's brilliant, Murray Gold. But anyway, filming for the series began on the 18th of July 2004, and over the next 18 months of production, Russel T Davies deployed the perfect script, the perfect style, the perfect image, the perfect tone, the perfect Doctor, the perfect companion, the perfect characters, and the perfect enemies. But would it be enough? Would it be received as well as he had hoped? Would the public fall back in love with Doctor Who, or would they turn their back on it like they had done with the TV movie? Short answer, no, they loved it. The overnight viewing figures for the series premiere, Rose, which aired on the 26th of March 2005, were 10.8 million, a 43% share of the total TV audience that evening, and over double the number that the TV movie fetched. And what's really special is that it maintained it. Even by the series finale, 13 weeks later, there was a 6.9 million strong audience, a clear indicator that the show had successfully won back a loyal fan base. All in all, Doctor Who's revival was an unmitigated success and one of the greatest comebacks in television history. It's thanks to Russell and his team's extensive and dedicated work towards their favourite show that Doctor Who has seen out a further 12 series, and with the revival approaching its 17th birthday, the show is still one of the British television's most well-known and well-loved franchises. Russell demonstrated that Doctor Who had resilience and stamina, that it was able to adapt and change. More than that, he showed that in order to survive, Doctor Who had to. Doctor Who was built to change, evolve, and reorganise itself to match whatever the audience desired at any given time. And RTD proved this point beyond any doubt. In doing so, warning the whole world to dismiss it at their own peril. Moreover, his era of Doctor Who inspired a generation of children to enter the television industry, just as he himself had once been inspired. And many of those young fans are now making the show themselves. The story of Doctor Who's revival is one of belief, triumph, love, and determination. It demonstrates the show's ability to unite and inspire at its full potential. And it reassures us that the show will always be with us, in spirit, in spite of everything the world can do to destroy it. So with Davies set to return as showrunner in 2023, I'm hopeful that he can once again inject new life into the show and give us all another rendition of the magic that first appeared in 2005. I believe that he can use the 60th in the same way he used the 40th to springboard a whole new era of Doctor Who that will see the programme out for another glorious 17. Yeah, so there you have it. That's my first official video essay. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. And yeah, guess that's it. Oh yeah, I should let you know what's going on. So I'm hoping to release a few more videos like this. Try and get it a bit more frequently going forward. My next big project is going to be a review of Flux, the whole series, plus probably either the Daleks. And I want to get that out hopefully before Legend of the Sea Devils airs, so that going into a review on that when it comes out, you guys kind of know where I stand on the recent Chibnall stuff and all of that, which would help you, I think, and it'd be good, just lend some context. Yeah. In the meantime, I'm doing stuff on YouTube Shorts and TikTok, where you can find me at Whopinions. Just search in Whopinions, it shows up. I'm releasing lots of little mini videos with facts, theories, and questions for you. I also want to do a couple of sort of more ranking videos coming forward. Don't know when I'll get those out, but just keep an eye out for stuff. Obviously, if you like the content, subscribe and you'll get notified of it. Yeah, but yeah, thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for all this stuff, and in the meantime, happy times and places.